so burning bright. City pulse, I'm feeling right. Every heartbeat sinks in time to the rhythm in my mind. Electric, no denying. Stars above us multiplying. You pull me close, we start to rise. We're taking off into the sky. Feeling like vinyl round and round. Baseline shakes the underground. No control can slow me down. I'm flying high, don't touch the ground. Can't hold me, I'm levitating, and in your orbit, I'm rotating. Feel that heat, we're generating, and we move in, breathe intoxicated. Gravity can't hold me, I'm levitating. All I feel is mirror balls in silver haze, losing track of time and space. You got magic in your gaze, like the dawn in neon rays. Such a gold, a spark ignites, bodies moving through the night. We don't stop, we don't come down, till the world stops spinning round. Spinning like vinyl, run around. Baseline shakes the underground. No control can slow me down. I'm flying high, don't touch the ground. Gravity can't hold me, I'm levitating. In your orbit, I'm rotating. Feel that heat, evaporating. Every move intoxicating. Gravity can't hold rings, I'm levitating. All I feel is lights flash, hearts clash, feel the rhythm crash. Every step we take, rewind, replay. No fear, just sound. We're higher off the ground, and nothing can pull us away. Gravity can't hold me, I'm levitating. In your orbit, yeah, levitating. Feel that heat, we're generating. Every run, I'm high, no intoxicated. Gravity can't hold me, I'm levitating. Yeah, I'm levitating. I used to wait for someone to tell me where to go, chasing every heartbeat that never matched my own. I poured out all my colors on people who let them fade, but now I see the sunlight breaking through the shade, and I finally learned what freedom feels like, standing on my 2 feet with nothing left to hide. I can run my own rhythm, I can dance through the night. I don't need permission just to shine in my light. I can love who I'm becoming, I'm a fire, I'm a spark. I can run my own rhythm, even glowing in the dark. You thought you wrote my story, but I rewrote every line, turned all the missing pieces into something that's mine. I'm walking with a heartbeat that's steady, strong and true, and every step is louder than every I loved you. Now I'm rising up like I was meant to. Every scar I carry paints a better view. I can run my own rhythm, I can dance through the night. I don't need permission just to shine in my light. I can love who I'm becoming, I'm a fire, I'm a spark. I can run my own I'm done with all the shadows breaking off the chains. No more waiting for somebody to pull me through. Every step I'm taking, I'm rebuilding something new. I can stand my ground, even when the world gets loud. I can lift myself higher than the darkest cloud. I don't need your hand to feel like I'm enough. I can raise my flame even when the night gets rough. Oh, I can stand my ground. Yeah, I can stand my ground. Oh, walking through the city with a steady stride. Every little heartbeat keeps me amplified. Didn't know my power till I walked away. Now I'm dancing with the fire that I make each day. No more waiting for somebody